I want to start off to give props to Dr. King because what he managed to do was to push all of the white presidents into one day. There used to be a Washington's birthday and a so-and-so's birthday and a so-and-so's birthday, and Dr. King came, and there's now something called President's Day, right? So whatever Black people do, we do it in a big way. And we changed the calendar for everybody, not just for Dr. King, but for everybody. Uh, Also, we have the only calendar day, celebratory birthday that was generated out of the culture of Black people, which is to say, Stevie Wonder played that song, Happy Birthday, Dr. King, every day, all the time, would not let radio stations play his other stuff unless they played Dr. King's song. And there was a general feeling that they should give King the holiday so we can hear the rest of Stevie Wonder's songs, right? Because Stevie was not going to get up off it. And you can't overestimate the power of that song in keeping King's that holiday movement alive. Uh, it was like everywhere. It got in your head. It was in everybody's head, and it's now come down and is taking place next to the "Lift Every Voice and Sing" as the national Black birthday song, right? Because on your birthday, what you say? Happy birthday to you. See, we replaced the old boring "Happy Birthday to you" with like a Black birthday song, which is generated in response to Dr. King's presence. Uh, the point being that King was an outsized figure, very amazing figure, one of the most important figures in American history, probably in human history. Uh, and I will tell you about my first kind of contacts with him and what I felt at the time. Uh, like a lot of young people in the movement who were considered themselves more radical than King, you're skeptical of Baptist preachers because they had a reputation of not being that radical. Uh, I first heard Dr. King in person at the March on Washington in 1963. Uh, I had come with the Chicago. There were two trains that came out of Chicago. My cousins paid my way because I didn't have any money to go anywhere. And they insisted that I should go join all the other crazy people going to Washington, D.C. and make a lot of noise. And so they paid my way and gave me food money and everything. And you get there and you were a bit annoyed because you already knew that they had censored SNCC. And you already knew that James Baldwin was likely not to say a word. Uh, and there was already rumblings about like, how come ain't no sisters on the platform? This is the marching even got started. People already kind of buzzing like what's up with this, Uh, and King gives this speech, the I Have a Dream speech. Uh, and to be quite frank, at the time, I was not paying full attention to it because it was about 95 degrees. DC was hot, muggy, and I'm trying to get to the reflecting pool so I can get my feet in the water and cool off, right? And so what I'm hearing is coming, all the way up because it's, the sound echoes because of the loudspeakers. I'm hearing this, I have a dream, and I keep saying, what is he dreaming about now? Because King could preach, but I'm like, you weren't quite sure what he was saying. And then as he gets toward the end of it, you kind of stop and listen when he talks about the promissory note coming back, insufficient funds. And then he gets on that wonderful rhetorical role at the end where he's really at his kind of best. And you kind of listen to it. But on the other hand, you're kind of skeptical about it. Even at that young age, before I was really fully engaged in a lot of movement activity, I didn't think you were going to be able to convince white Americans to give you anything substantive without a bigger fight than just being willing to get beat up for it, because they were quite willing to beat you up. If you're willing to die for your freedom, white Americans are quite willing to kill you. So I mean, it seemed like that as a strategy that had some shortcomings, which we're the ones getting beat up, we're the ones going to jail, we're the ones getting shot. And they're the ones that are wrong. So that the moral balance on that scale seemed to be shifted. The weight was shifted to the victims rather than the people who were oppressing us. So I had that kind of skepticism about King. But as a person, you liked him. He was. If you notice, there are a lot of pictures of King smiling. There are a lot of pictures of King engaged in kind of just personal kind of activity, just doing things. You don't have a lot of those of Dr. Du Bois. You very seldom see a picture of Dr. Du Bois smiling. Like you got to know, was he ever happy about anything? Was he like serious all the time? But you got the impression that King lived kind of like a full life, that he was like a rounded, well-rounded person. The second time I heard him was in Soldiers Field in Chicago when he came for a big rally after we had the school boycotts. And that one again had me kind of still not so sure, because it was the day that Nelson Mandela and Sisulu and Sobukwe were arrested. And so a group of us immediately, hand painted signs, saying free Mandela, free Sobukwe, free Sisulu. I've still got a picture of mine. I didn't calculate right, so I had to put et cetera at the end to get the rest of the guys in. Because I'm saying freedom and self crowd ran out of space on my cardboard. And so I had to do a dot, 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 but we were not allowed to bring those signs into Soldiers Field. The marshals at the gates said that no signs bringing up foreign policy, no discussions of things that might be embarrassing to the United States, and that this was not a civil rights matter. And we were furious. And we tried to figure out, like, how do we get in there? Well, you can't roll it up because it's cardboard. It would, you try to bend it, it would snap. And so the guys that sold, the vendors that sold sausages and hot dogs and Cokes looked at us and said, like, what's your problem? I said, they won't let us bring our sign. They said, why don't you come in with us? So we came in between two hot dog trucks so nobody could see us. So we kind of shielded by the black working class. And we got in, we got all the way to the top of Soldiers Field. It's a horseshoe. This is how he got caught. And we started chanting free Mandela, free Mandela. And we started, and the police, of course, are coming to get us. But you can't get away because you have to come back when you get to the end of the road. You can't go around, you have to come down the next road. So we made about 10 rows before they finally grabbed the signs and said, you can stay, but the signs got to go. So they took our signs and we stayed. And we listened to King. And it was pretty clear that King would have problems if he brought that approach to Chicago. And that we kind of thinking like, well, the South is rough, but I'm not so sure Morrow Appeal would work with Mayor Daley and people like that. And so we found that out when, in fact, King moved to Chicago, in 1965. And I went over to the West Side. He had an office on the West Side. And that's when you kind of see him as not the Martin Luther King, but just as a person that's named Martin Luther King. It was kind of like Jimmy Baldwin. It's like there's James Baldwin, and then there's Jimmy Baldwin, who you actually meet, who's a very interesting, funny person, full of life, and like a real person, not just a kind of icon walking around. And King was like that. King could hustle pool. He hustled the vice lords to get them to support him. Because they didn't believe in nonviolence. King goes to the pool hall and trying to recruit them, and they're looking at him and they're playing pool. And King's was like, what are y'all doing? And he said, I said, playing pool. And I guess, pool, that's interesting. How does it work? And said, well, you take this thing and you hit these balls into the holes here. And King said, I said, I'll tell you what, if I beat you, you come down and work with me and give me your support. And they say, sure. And they rack him up. And he said, can I go first? He ran 2 racks. And he said, I'll see you at my office tomorrow morning. And the guy said, he knows how to play pool. Yeah. No. He spent a lot of time in Atlanta when he was at Morehouse in the pool halls up and down.